So Rafa Marquez said this. I think this is the team game, and unfortunately, there isn't an equal level between my teammates and I. He said that while playing for the Red Bulls. he got 2 red cards in pivotal playoff games. Both of them ended up being losses for the Red Bulls. He just didn't contribute at all. Didn't look like he wanted to be there. Tried to pick fights all the time. We already know that he had a little bit of that in him from playing U.S. versus Mexico games, but yeah, he was a mess. He was a mess. Let's talk about Lorenzo Insigne, because Toronto FC are looking to offload this guy. Now, he has the second highest salary in the league, $15.4 million, which is more than the total wage bill of 7 other MLS clubs. It's only second to Lionel Messi. And has he earned that money? I guess that's the big question. It looks like Fiorentina and Como are both reportedly interested, but nobody wants to pay those wages. Those are ridiculous wages. Now, he played 63 games in all competitions for TFC, 18 goals and 13 assists. I don't think that's the worst rate of return.
So one every 3 games, right?
But for that price, you expecting a lot more for that money. They didn't make the MLS playoffs at any point in his 2.5 years. They never even won the Canadian Championship, which I thought they just did with their eyes closed, but they were runner-up in 2022 and 2024. I mean, it's wild. They got to get this guy off the books, and I know that he had run-ins with Bob Bradley and other coaches along the way, and this hasn't worked out. I wouldn't consider him, though, if we get into the biggest flop conversation. I wouldn't consider him the biggest flop in MLS history. But for the price, he's in the conversation because of how much they pay him per year.
Yeah, that's a lot of scratch, man, to pay somebody in this league and not get like full return.
That's a lot.
You mentioned Fiorentina. He doesn't play at Fiorentina right now if he goes. He doesn't play, I don't think, at
you don't think they put him at Como? They give him some run. They give him some time.
Como plays, man. They're one of the teams that puts the ball on the deck and plays. He probably could play there. They play like Cesc Fabregas played, right? Mm-hmm. That's what they do. But he's not playing at Fiorentina right now, and Como is not paying him nearly what he's getting here. I think the biggest problem is he and Bernardeschi have they wrote out Bob Bradley. They've written out managers. They've been a bit of a headache. And then at the end of the year, say, well, no, next year we're coming, and he's, this is going to be better. I mean, this is going to be great. I love being here. Yeah, you love being there. 15 million, you better love being here, right? Because you're not going to get 15 million unless you're going to a Saudi Arabian side right now that might even take a guy like him. Those other places are going to be hard for him to play.
Yeah,
and they need that. Look, my flight got in at 4 a.m. last night, Jimmy. Did Toronto hire a manager today or no? Did I miss anything?
I haven't seen anything.
Okay, good. But so I'm just wondering who's making the. I didn't know if I missed something this morning, but I wonder who's making the decisions on players, right? Imagine you bring in some manager that said, "Well, shoot, man, you just sold the guy that I was going to build a team around."
Yeah, I feel like he's shown and demonstrated enough over his 2.5 years that
you're probably not going to.
Probably don't want to count on the guy. And if you can somehow offload some of that salary, I mean, imagine the players you could go get if you were going to actually use that money to build your roster. I don't know. You could get 3 pretty good players off of $15.4 million a year. 4 players?
You think?
Players. Yeah, for sure. So I'm sure that was already in the works, and now it's just kind of coming to a head. Maybe they thought they could get some value from other places, but it doesn't seem like that's happening. Very curious to see how that unfolds. But let's get into it. Biggest MLS flops. Big Tones. For me, when producer Dez asked us to kind of put this together, I immediately went to Denilson. Remember Denilson? Brazilian.
Yeah. Dallas. Was he in Dallas?
FC Dallas. Had a cup of coffee with FC Dallas. Listen, this guy, he was a baller. Like he played for the Brazilian national team, played in the 98 World Cup, 2002 World Cup. So won that one. Won the 2002 World Cup with Brazil. Super good on the dribble. Real Betis paid $35 million for him coming out of that 2002 World Cup because his talent was undeniable. But then you fast forward to 2007 when he signed with FC Dallas or whenever he came in. He was terrible. This guy had 9 games, 1 goal, and the goal was a penalty. And so it wasn't like he went out. The guy was terrible. In 2008, 0 regular season appearances. Maybe the most overhyped, biggest flop in my time playing. I remember going, this guy's bad. I was disappointed in myself. I wanted Denilson to be like the Denilson we saw in commercials and playing for Brazil. Did you play with Lothar Matthäus, by the way? He's
no, he's after me.
Yeah, Matthäus,
when I left, yeah.
Who was on your list?
I'm trying to think of the guy's name that I played with in New York. We brought in the Chilean player. We paid him $800,000. No. Bronco got I didn't have him on my list. Bronco played 8 games, and I think he had 3 red cards. So he might be on that list, but I can't say him. He was such a great guy. I feel bad. I feel bad putting one there. Rafa Marquez came to mind for me. Thinking about his pedigree.
Insane.
Yeah. Frank Lampard, his time here, I didn't think was great. Someone wrote to me a while back, Pirlo, and I'm like, when you watched Pirlo, like there was still a little bit of class in his, not a little bit, a lot of bit of class in his game. Like when he played, it just didn't, he played on a really bad team. I'm trying to think of the guy's name.
Frank Lampard actually put some numbers together, though. I mean, he had 15 goals and 4 assists in 29 games. So it wasn't.
He's still off the list. He's off the list.
I gotta. Yeah, he's not a flop. I feel like he put enough together, though. He was part of that 7-0 loss on aggregate to Toronto FC in the 2016 quarterfinals. Which, come on, dude. How about Steven Gerrard? Steven Gerrard. I mean, his 2016, he had 3 goals and 11 assists in 22 games. But they were coming off that generation where they just won a bunch of MLS Cups with Robbie Keane and Beckham and Landon. And then he came in. I actually think Douglas Costa is a bigger bust for the Galaxy.
Douglas Costa, yeah.
He looked like he phoned it in and game out. Game in and game out.
Who else is on the list? Then
I had Rafa Marquez for sure. That dude, he listen, there was a quote I found from him, which I forgot about. So Rafa Marquez said this. I think this is the team game. And unfortunately, there isn't an equal level between my teammates and I. He said that while playing for the Red Bulls. He got 2 red cards in pivotal playoff games. Both of them ended up being losses for the Red Bulls. He just didn't contribute at all. Didn't look like he wanted to be there. Tried to pick fights all the time. We already know that he had a little bit of that in him from playing U.S. versus Mexico games. But yeah, he was a mess. He was a mess. He actually said that when Thierry Henry was on his team too, which is kind of funny. We had Freddie Adu potentially, just because he actually beat me in MLS Cup 2004, MLS Cup final. Oh, Tones, you were there too. Listen, that sucked. That we lost to Freddie Adu.
Yeah, Jim. I was watching that game too.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring up old stuff. How about a recent example? Jordan Shaqiri. Where would you Chicago fire?
Yeah, you know what?
So
that
he
was
has
not
some
good.
numbers, but like it you don't.
They were all penalty kicks. Man.
That's true.
They were all penalty kicks. I mean, he had no numbers, and I used to hate when he was screaming at all the time. He was screaming at Brian Gutierrez all the time. I'm like, dude, you're the leader making $8 million a year. And you got this young kid who's probably so excited to play with you. And every time he did something wrong, which, by the way, most of the time, as far as I saw, was Shaqiri's fault, he would be yelling at Gutierrez all the time. I mean, screaming at him. And we used to sit there going, I can't believe this kid's going to crumble. And good on Gutierrez because he just continued to flourish and flourish. Yeah, he's on the list, Jimmy. Shaqiri's on the list for sure.
Hey, shout out to the comments for bringing up Freddie Lewinberg as well. Got to play against him a few times, and he was not in his peak Arsenal form, let's say. That's a good shout, Freddie Lewinberg. Another one that I had to get reminded of when I was looking for names that we had played with or against, or even recent names, Big Tones. But remember Neri Castillo? Who came into the Chicago Fire with all this fanfare and was absolutely terrible. I think he was actually part of Man City at some point, and the guy was awful. I mean, he kind of falls into for me, Denilson showed some previous talent, and I guess that designates more of a flop. Maybe Castillo did as well, but man, he came in and he was
Denilson
bad.
was one of the best dribblers in the world. That right. For at least a month he was.
Yeah. I don't know. So I'm with A. Ivis in our private chat, our producer Ivis, who says that Neri arrived as damaged goods. If that's the case, okay, fair enough. But he was terrible. So I just want to throw that out there.
What am I seeing? What did Des put in there? A lot of Zlatan slander.
Zlatan slander?
Didn't Zlatan score like 51 goals in 52 games or something like that?
Zlatan, do you think Zlatan was a flop? I don't think he was a flop.
I don't think so. No, I don't even think that's not even on the radar, I don't think.
No, Zlatan wasn't even close to top of mind. Because the guy, in some ways too, yes, he didn't win anything, but he also helped move the needle for the league. I thought, well, I guess it depends on how you rate Zlatan, but I thought it was in a positive way, right? The guy could walk his talk, unlike most players. Well, nobody runs their mouth like Zlatan, but the guy I thought the guy backed it up. He scored some ridiculous goals, and his games were must watch. I wasn't must watch in Neri Castillo. I guess Freddie Adu kind of falls into that camp too, because you just wanted to see what the hype was all about, and unfortunately he didn't deliver. But at least he brought you in and made you want to watch, and you can't say that for. I guess Denilson did at one point, and then you're watching him going like, this guy is absolute trash. Kaká is an interesting one. He didn't deliver to what we know he's capable of,
but he was he's kind of back end of his career. Yeah, we did mention Rafa Marquez quite a bit, Des, in this one. It's for me, I maybe because I was watching the Red Bulls at that time, a little bit more. I was paying more attention there, but he's the one that came to mind as soon as I saw this.